Welcome to the Everyday Dan podcast, where we embark on a bite-sized journey of curiosity and discovery into the myriad of fascinating topics that I am passionate about. I'm your host, Dan, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this adventure as we learn new things together. So lately I've been in, I suppose, what you might consider a bit of a leadership kick, and it's not even necessarily intentional. It just happens to be kind of where I'm at. And I've been reading recently the book, I believe it's The Warrior Poet Way by John Lovell. And it's made me reflect a lot on what the idea of leadership is, what leadership means, and kind of how people are leaderships and how people are leaders versus how they are not leaders. And so I kind of have a really general outline, might not actually be general, might actually take me a while to get through. But I want to talk about three things. I want to talk about leaders versus fake leaders. I want to talk about the warrior poets. And I want to talk about a leadership philosophy of personally that I have. And hopefully it'll help you guys out. But the first thing I want to talk about is the individuals, the leaders versus fake leaders. And in my, at this point now, I've been in college world, I've been in the corporate world, I've been in, church world, I've been in a number of different places and in these different atmospheres. So, and this is something that I see secular as well as, Christian environments. Oh, there's my cat popping in through her little pet door. And the thing is that you and I would both see this, is there are two different kinds of people. So there are leaders that are genuine leaders. And I've dealt with a number of them. I've worked for them. I've worked with them. And the thing about someone that is a genuine leader is they are a genuine leader. That is exactly it. They lead in such a way that you cannot do anything except help. You can't help but follow them. And that's a really important thing. Now, one of the things about that is a genuine leader is going to put his heart and soul into leading, and in such a way that it is not forced, and he is not forcing other people, which is a really hard part for someone to hear, because it's like, here's the thing, we'll get into that in the fake leader, but the actual leader also has a sense of empathy. So they are invested in the people that they are working for and with, and who are working for them. And so, and if I think about that too, the managers that I had in the secular world were the managers that they went above and beyond the call of duty, so to speak, to make sure that things were going well, that I was succeeding in my job. Because now, obviously, you can say, well, yes, you succeeding in your job meant that they were succeeding. That's true. But they also cared about me as an individual. And those were the managers that I would go, and I would, when I worked for them, I'd be like, I'd go to the ends of the earth kind of thing when you work for that type of person, because you're going to be loyal to them. And so, and I've dealt with those. Now, in the same sense too, then you have the fake leaders, and what I have learned is a pretty good telltale sign that someone is is possibly a fake leader is when they tell you that they are a born leader. I have never met someone who was a genuine and good leader that ever said anything to that effect. In fact, actually, a lot of times, people who are genuine, who are good leaders, don't actually ever talk about themselves when it comes to their leadership. They tend to not. But then the people that are bad at it, they tend to bring it up. And these born leaders are also the types of people that kind of generally drag people along with them. They get you in, they kind of say, oh, well, yeah, let's do this. And by force of will, drag you along with. That has some leadership potential, but it's not true leadership in all honesty. We could look at certain political figures and be like, oh, well, they're a leader, but they're also forcing people to follow them, not because of loyalty or anything else. People are just following them because they have to. The person that's actually a genuine leader is the person that people are going to choose to follow, whether they have to or not. They want to. That's a big thing. So you have to think about that. And so a lot of times, and now this is kind of a broad strokes. So not all of them are going to be that way, but it's a pretty good barometer that they are not good leaders. And if you hear any meowing in the background, that is just my cat deciding that she wants to be involved in the recording process. Come on, get up, cat. She's gonna be stubborn. But so that's the thing. So you have to think about that when someone is going to go through and they are intentionally just basically, they're like, yeah, I'm a born leader. Watch how they are as a person. Are they empathetic? What's their emotional intelligence like? Because someone can, know how to lead, but they don't know how to lead. And that is kind of where you get into the my next point, the warrior poets. Now, I'm really borrowing heavily from the Warrior Poet Society, which is run by the author of the book, The Warrior Poet Way, or The Warrior Poet Way, Warrior Way, something like that. And the idea is that the warrior poet is a person who is both going to be able to stand the call to action and to care for people and protect people, but he is also going to be the one that is thoughtful, and so you get this idea that the warrior poet they're an intelligent person. They have grit, emotional grit, and some physical prowess. Yes, they're strong in some way or another. But the thing is, too, is someone who is purely strong doesn't necessarily make a good warrior. And that is where the poet comes in, is because the idea of a poet is someone who is intellectual, someone who is thoughtful. Now, here's the thing. A bad leader can be either just a pure warrior, and they're just straight on. They're just, let's just take things, and we're gonna knock this out and be done. Or they're just the pure poet, where they're purely in their head, and it's all thought stuff. To be a good leader, you need to be able to have the grit to do what needs to be done, but you also have to have the heart to go with that. And John Lovell, he talks about in his book, he's like, the human body will basically last a lot longer if your mind lasts. Your mind will break before your body does. And so if you have an unbreakable will, your body can push itself really hard past that. And so that's the part of leadership, is a lot of times you are going to be to your mental breaking point, and you have to push past that because of the fact that there are people that need you. Parenting is a leadership thing that sometimes you're tired, you're exhausted, you just don't want to do stuff, but you have to grit your teeth and say, you know what, it's not about me. And that's where leadership comes in, is leadership is not about you. You don't go into leadership because you want to be a popular person. That's not important. Your popularity is pointless. It's, do you have a desire and actually the ability to help? And the thing is, too, is you're probably not going to have the ability, but are you willing to work on it and not just, borrow from pure talent? And that's where, in my case, there is kind of a mentality that I've kind of gradually built up. And it took a lot of time, actually, to find this or come to this, actually. In reality, though, I mean, the history of it last a lot longer. And that's where I come to this third point, the little things leadership. And I can actually basically trace this philosophy all the way back to my dad. Because my dad said something to the effect years ago. And I mean, we're talking single digit age for me. So I was 8, 9, maybe. Maybe I was 10. Maybe I was in the double digits finally. But the thing is, too, he basically made a comment that you can talk to anyone and you can get to know anyone. You just have to find the one commonality, and you can build a relationship with them. And you'd be like, well, that's all fine and dandy. But the thing is, too, is I actually watched him do this. There's some times when he would, as an insurance adjuster, go to a claim, and I would tag along with him and, play with the person's pets that we were with. And my dad would just talk with them, and he would get to know them. And the next thing you know, they're pouring him a cup of coffee. They're laughing. The two of them are laughing and joking, and not like that forced laugh, but like a genuine, actual laugh, like a meaningful, and I mean, my dad actually had at least one or two different friends that he made as clients that he was friends with for over a decade. And I think actually he's probably still friends with at least one of them to this day. I also watched him on a vacation sit down at a park bench with a guy who was homeless, strike up a conversation, and they talked for over an hour. Next thing you know, my mom's running to McDonald's and getting lunch for the two of them. So this was something that I saw, and so my dad kind of really lived this out for me. And over the years, I've kind of somewhat developed it. Maybe you might say that part of it is ingrained, but I highly doubt it. I think it's just kind of, I've gradually worked at it because I think it's really important. And so I kind of call it the little things leadership philosophy, because, you need a good mouthful. And it kind of basically goes to this. You start with little things, which create a connection, which creates openness, which then creates depth. So the little things is simple conversations. Maybe you're joking around, silly, dumb, joking around, that kind of stuff. Like, haha, that was a good dad joke. Some of you might not like dad jokes, but you're wrong. But anyways, then those little things create a connection. So you go from laughing about jokes to, hey, how's life treating you? How you doing? Kind of thing. To openness, which builds trust, where you go then from just like, hey, how's it going? Oh, I'm good, to, hey, can you pray for me? I'm having a rough time. And then that openness then creates depth. So you go through and the door to deeper conversation opens, where someone basically comes to you and be like, hey, have you ever struggled with this addiction or that? And how do you handle it? I'm really struggling with that. And so the thing is too is you have to pay attention to these small things. And now here's the thing too, you can't do this in a calculated way. If you're just looking at this and you're listening to me say this and you're like, oh, this is a formula to make me a good leader, it might make you a more efficient leader. But the thing is, and the secret sauce to this, so to speak, is you must genuinely care about the people that this is happening with. You can't just simply do this and expect it to work if you don't actually care about them in your heart. You have to actually be emotionally invested in these individuals that this is happening with, and take the time to that. And the thing is too, this is going to work in that. The little things leadership philosophy works in pretty much any atmosphere. It's going to work in school, in work, at home, everywhere, because we are naturally relational beings. And so if you lean into that, it allows you to create depth, and depth is important. We need depth. Now, here's the thing. You want to be careful about how you do that, because if you create depth with the wrong person, maybe someone now has a crush on you or something like that. I don't think it's going to happen to everybody, but you still need to be prudent about it. But the thing is too, it's like for me, the people that I deal with and I interact with on a regular basis, I want them to know I care about them, that I'm protective of them. The teens that I get to be a volunteer to work with, I genuinely care about them. My clients that I work with on a day-to-day basis, I genuinely care about these individuals. My coworkers, I pray for them. These are people that they may be individuals out and about, but they have value intrinsically. And that's another part is, for me as a Christian, that adds even more weight to the little things leadership philosophy, because I believe I have a vested interest in everyone I interact with, that they are an immortal soul that is in need of God and in need of salvation. So that adds even more weight to it. And so so that's one of those things. So you want to think about that. So if you want to, leave behind the born leader mentality that you have, you need to start thinking
and an empathetic sense. Now be careful about this because your emotions can't run wild with you, but you need to think it out. But those are just some spitballing theories. Hopefully this is some stuff that's helpful to you guys, and hopefully you like it and it's very helpful. And I'll see you next week.